So, as we mentioned earlier on, Éric Duhaime, leader of the Provincial Conservative Party, has a new plan for the failed tunnel that never happened, and I guess fair to say, cost the CAQ that by-election in Jean Talon. When we had Jean-François Lisée on earlier, Eric, he had this question that he wanted us to make sure we asked you, Brian.
Do you agree with Lisé's amendment to your plan to have greenhouses for strawberries over the highway?
I hear you laughing, Eric.
Well, obviously, the reason why we're talking about this is because it's been in the plans in Quebec City to have a link between the North Shore and the South Shore at the where the Ile d'Orléans is. It's been in the plan of the Ministry of Transportation for 40 to 50 years. I mean, if you look at a map from Quebec City of the roads, you can see that it looks, that it's like a big C. It looks even like the logo of the Montreal Canadiens. That's not the purpose. It was supposed to be a circle like everywhere else in the world around the city, and it's never been done. And Quebecers have been waiting for over 40 years, and they've been promised election after election that the bridge was coming, and it never happened. And the CAQ promised it over and over again. They then came out with a tunnel that was way too costly and was not the good project, and they had to backtrack, and now we're back to square one. So the idea is not to build more or whatever. It's just to finish the plans that have been going on for decades in Quebec City. And that's why we came out and we reiterate the project, and we gave a little bit more details about the plan yesterday. And I hope that Mr. Legault will be more open-minded right now because, as you mentioned, he got a severe defeat in Jean Talon, and it's gonna be even worse elsewhere in the Quebec City region. So if he keeps going the way he is right now, because they're pushing right now for a tramway that 2/3 of the population doesn't want, and they don't respect their promises that over 65% of the population wants and have been wanted for years. So there's something that's wrong right now in Quebec City.
How much would your bridge idea cost?
Well, roughly, they're talking about half of the price of the tunnel. So we're talking about 4 point something to $5 billion compared to 10 for the tunnel. So it's less costly. The second good advantage of the bridge instead of a tunnel is that the trucks can go on. The explosives, how do you say, the matières dangereuses, the dangerous materials can go on. And also, it's easier to predict the cost. The risk of having a huge amount unexpected is much less because it's much easier, as you figure out, to build over the St. Lawrence River than underneath. You never know what you're going to find when you're digging. So that for all those reasons, we do believe that the bridge is a much better issue.
So no strawberries.
No strawberries. Okay. Well, there's already a lot of strawberries on the Ile d'Orléans anyway.
There are. But I raised the issue that, when Legault did his flip-flop and then kind of has been just trying to find something to make people happy. That's how it comes across. But my sentiment is that sort of everyone is doing that right now, and I would include you in that, Monsieur Duhaime, that it's somehow just a question of pandering for popularity, trying to give the population something that's going to make them happy when it doesn't necessarily make that much sense.
Well, I've never ever changed my mind. If you look at my track record, even when I was on air as a radio host like you guys for 10 years, I've always been a supporter of a bridge and on the east side of Quebec City. It's nothing to do. It's not the politician that is talking; it's the human being. And secondly, if Mr. Legault's in trouble right now, especially in Quebec City, much more than elsewhere in Quebec, it's not even a matter of bridge or tunnel. I think it's way beyond that. It's the fact that he completely lied to everyone. And it was not, it happens that a politician doesn't respect its promise. That happens all the time. But the difference this time is that it was the ballot issue. That's what we were told during the election. Bernard Drinville said, this is the ballot question for the election, yes or no to our tunnel. And then a few months later, they come out with huge studies that supposedly were saying the opposite, and now we figure out that it was not true. And the people are just like, why did they lie so badly? And we have an impression that we voted under false representation. So even people who are against the tunnel in the first place or the bridge, they're even as furious at Mr. Legault and they're furious at the CAQ because they feel they're a bunch of liars. And that's the sentiment right now in Quebec City.
Well, so let me ask you, you know what happened after losing that by-election? Suddenly, a day or two later, the tunnel idea is back in play, and the premier says, "Oh, yeah, we're going to get it done." I mean, is this another lie as far as you can see, you can tell?
Well, if he doesn't want it to be another lie, we have to make sure that the process goes quickly, and he starts the construction field before the next election, because otherwise nobody's going to believe him anymore. Because the way it was done, as you remember, in April, the Minister of Transport, Geneviève Guilbeault, came out with huge studies. She was alone at a press conference to say that they were backtracking on their promise. And saying that there was a decrease of people crossing the bridge, and she was using data during the crisis, where of course a lot of people were working from home. But now we realize that the levels are back, if not worse, than where they were before the pandemic. So the whole process, didn't make any sense in the first place. The way they did it, the way they managed it, and I think we can say fairly that it's the biggest crisis for the Legault government after 5 years in power. It's by far their biggest crisis that they're managing right now, and probably the one that is going to be politically the most costly. Because Mr. Legault, it does happen. He did some mistakes, and he apologized, and people moved on. But I think this one, for all the reasons we've mentioned, it does stick. And so it's going to be interesting in the next few weeks to see what's going to happen elsewhere in Quebec, because that's the issue right now. I think in Quebec City they lost a lot of support. Is it going to backfire as well elsewhere in Quebec? Because people who are against the tunnel are more outside of Quebec City than inside of Quebec City. So the fact that he's flip-flopping now, the risk that he's having is that people who are to believe in the bridge and the tunnel like me are going to say, we don't believe you anymore. And people who were against it in the first place are saying, why did he change his mind and why is he against us now? So he might lose on both sides.
I will ask you one last question because we have to wrap up. So you talked about it being a pivotal part of the CAC plan, this promise of the tunnel, and then a month later they backtrack. Will this be, the bridge idea, a pivotal part of your plan? And I realize the election's still about 3 years away, but
it's going to be an important project, very important. We're going to put it forward in Quebec City. There's a huge consensus, and hopefully, I don't want it to be a conservative idea. I think it's the idea. It was there way before the Conservative Party was there, and I hope everybody's going to, take the ownership of the project, and it's not going to be a conservative idea. Hopefully it's going to become the idea of everybody, and that the project's going to move forward. And if Mr. Legault wants to take the credit for it, I'm ready to give it to him.
Mr. Duhaime, I'm squeezing in one last quick one, which is just about consultation.
Yeah.
If we know that the residents in Ile-de-Orléans don't even want this, will there be any public consultation where they will have a say in what happens in their own area?
The consultations, many people argue they already happened because we had 2 elections where it was the main promise. And if you add the votes of the CAQ and the Conservative Party in Quebec City, we're talking about 2/3 of voters. So it's not like people didn't vote. Secondly, if you look at the island per se, it voted for the CAQ in 2018 when the CAQ was proposing a tunnel or a bridge where the Ile-d'Orléans is, because they changed their plan in 2022 to downtown. But initially they had a plan where we are talking about our project, and the CAQ got the support of the people on the island. And during the last election, even if we were proposing a bridge with a highway on the Ile-d'Orléans, well, we had the same percentage of support on the Ile-d'Orléans than elsewhere in the Quebec City region. So it was not, people were not against that project per se. So yes, I am not against consultation, but people have already expressed themselves a few times on that issue.
Éric Duhaime, leader of the Provincial Conservative Party, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Good talking to you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Take good care.